Yeah, so now we have before us in this table a whole bunch of Leicas and two Nikons by courtesy of one of our customer collector. So gracious to bring his set for us to do the video on. Okay, I will do in three segments. One side here is all the Leica film camera. This side is the Leica digital cameras. And these two are two special Nikon ones. Okay, 1954 is the date to remember. 1954, the Leica M3 was introduced to the world. If you can't remember the date too well, you just find out when the Burger King started flame grilling their burgers. They started flame grilling their burgers in 1954. So M3 and Burger King have the same birthday, 1954. All right. So before that, Leica have the screw mount cameras. They were smaller. You can put in the pocket. The only thing is that when you change lens, you got to turn the lens a few rounds before you can take it out. It was a bit slow. And then the Japanese companies also tried to do that. In fact, the Leica was the most copied camera. So they also have a lot of screw mount Japanese camera. They tried very hard to make it even better. But when Leica came out with the M3 in 1954, it gave them a big knockout. They all gave up. So they went to SLR. So the M3, for those who are not familiar, we were wondering why the first camera is called M3, whereas the second one is M2 and M1. Normally you put the M1 first, but no, this was M3 came first. M is no magic name. M is just in German is Meshucker. Meshucker means rangefinder. So the M is just to tell you is rangefinder, and the 3 because it had 3 windows and there are 3 frame lines. You can see the frame line 50, 90 and 135. So we have the M3. Very well made metal winding lever. In fact, most of the thing here are all metal, very well made, very tough. Then the take-up spools, all metal. The cloth shutter, and you got a take-up spool. All right. So at the time when M3 up to M5 was produced, they make it in what they call fit and adjust. The camera has many sub-assemblies. So when they put the sub-assembly together, they can make fine control, little bit adjustment. So finally, when the whole camera is assembled, it is a perfectly adjusted camera. So M3 came out, it was very well received. Of course, no corners was cut, the price was high. Then some of the users said, are you able to come up with a similar version but slightly lower price? So like I tried to do a bit, it is built just as good as the M3, the M2. One of the things they did to cut down the cost is the frame counter is manual setting. So after you load the film, you got to dial in the exposure frame and then you do the counting. So it's not an automatic frame counter. And this time round, this camera didn't have, M3 didn't have 35mm frame line. So if you wanted to use a 35mm lens on this M3, you got to put an external viewfinder or a special lens with a spectacle, with a goggle. So the prism there will widen up the view to fit the 35 frame. So on M2, the frame line inside now is, they have a 35, 50 and a 90. So they have a 35 frame line. But otherwise, everything else is the same, built to the same specs, same engineering. same precision. Then the Leica was also famous in the lab, in the microscope, and sometimes they need a camera to record what they use on the lab in the microscope. So they came out with a camera called the M1. The M1 don't have the rangefinder window, it's blank off. In other words, this camera do not have a rangefinder. So a lot of complication less. So the cam is there, but no rangefinder inside. Of course, if you send this camera to the factory at that time to fit back the rangefinder, it is possible. Then it become like another M. But this one, the idea for this camera is to put on a microscope or the copy stand to document things. And they provided you with two frames, 35 and 50 frame line. So you estimate the distance and you frame with the frame line. So this is more for the lab scientific use. So okay, so these are the M's. Then there was another one here. This is the M4P. Now by the time the M4P, this is already in Canada. Up to this point, the world has been going to the SLR. And Leica was deliberating. Everyone is wanting an SLR. So should we stop the rangefinder and just do the SLR? They almost did that. But by that time, there was already a Lights Canada plant. And the country head there, Walter Klook, when he heard that they're going to kill off the M system, he said, no, please send the equipment, all the tools to Canada, and we will build it in Canada. Then the HQ said, okay, on one condition, if you can get me an order of 4,500 units, then we will ship it to you. Then Walter Klook managed to get an order of 9,000 units. So the M system was transferred to Canada. That move saved the M camera. Otherwise, we don't have the M today. It would have been killed off. So the first M that came out from Canada is the M42. And this is a variation, M4P. Now, this one is the forerunner of the M6. With the M4P, now you got the 6 frame lines, 28, 35, 50, 75, 90, and 135. So only thing is without the line meter. The line meter sits on top. So by that time, they already have an angle rewind crank. The older one is a rewind knob. Okay. So by this time, they have certain things which are changed. The loading system is simplified. So the loading system is faster. And you can put a motor. Then at the crossroad, Leica had cooperation with the Minolta company. They tried to come up with a scaled down camera so that it's more affordable. So this is the Leica CL. Some they call it the Lights Minolta. And Minolta came out one with their own. They call it the CLE. But basically it's a compact rangefinder camera with a vertical cloth shutter. So the cloth shutter, instead of going left to right, is going up and down. Okay. And they still have a rangefinder, but having a smaller body, the base of the rangefinder is shorter, so a little bit not so accurate, and only certain lenses you can use, not the very long one. But it was doing well. So well that Leica got afraid, they killed it off. Because they have the M5 and they had this one, so they killed it off so that this M series will continue to sell. So they come up with something good, but they kill it off. Then later on, the M6 here. The M6 is one of the most popular ones, most well known beside the M3. So they have many variations, and this is one of the version of the M6. This M6 TTL. So this camera, you not only have a light meter, for your normal ambient light exposure, you also got another sensor to measure the light for the flash. So you can have TTL through the flash. And you can recognize it by the size of the dial. The normal M got a small dial. The TTL got a big dial, and the rotation of the dial is corrected. This one, with the light meter, when the arrow point left, you got to turn the reverse right. When the arrow turn right, you got to turn left. Now this one is corrected. You turn according to the direction of the arrow. So you have this M6 TTL. Later on, they have the M7 with auto exposure, and this one they have a MP. They revert back to the old, not hand rewinding, but it retained the modern light meter. So M6, MP. So these are film like us. The lens has been the same from 54. In fact, you can use the adapter to use the screw mount lenses. Then later on, the digital one came out, the M8. The first M digital, the sensor was not full frame. It was a 1.33 crop. So your 28mm lens functioned like a 35mm. So you got this. But at that time, the CCD sensor, no live view. So the screen is only good for playback after you've taken the picture. Then later on, it came out with M9. M9 is the first M digital with a full frame sensor. So no more crop. Full frame sensor, but still use the CCD sensor and no live view. So you view the picture after you have taken. Okay. They have a few versions, M9, the standard one, then the M9, M9P, the step one. So no more Leica logo with a scratch resistant glass, bigger buffer. Then they came out with the M9 monochrome together with the Apo 50F2. So this one take only black and white, no color. Then after this M9 came out the M240. This time is CMOS, full frame. So this one now has got live view. You can use the screen to compose and focus as well as the rangefinder. Then you can also do all this. You got even a movie button for movie. So then of course along the way they come up with some attachment like this. Some started by independent maker, the thumbs up, thumb grip. Then this one have a hand grip with a finger loop, so better holding. All right. So after this, of course, they have a more advanced one. After the M240 was the M10. After the M10 is the M11, and both have the mono version and for both M10 and M11. So that is the M digital, M film analog. Currently, Leica is still about the only other company, can say the only company that still make film camera. Recently, Pentax make one half frame one, but this one full frame. Then we have two interesting Nikon cameras. This is Nikon DF. It takes on the form and look of the old Nikon SLR camera. This is a digital SLR camera, so there is a mirror. There's a reflex mirror, full frame. Instead of all the buttons only, but you also have dials and knobs, so it's very easy to understand the operation. This shutter speed, this is the exposure mode, this is the compensation, this is the ISO. So very easy to use. No video on this camera, but everything else is there. So then the last of the Mohican, Nikon F6. So we know the Nikon have the F, the F2, F3, F4, F5, and they ended up with the F6. F6 came out at a time where film camera was already sunset, but they gave their last go. It's the best built Nikon film camera ever. So you can take all the manual lenses, auto lenses, and the kind owner loaned it to us for us to do the video, and he said he hasn't fired a single shot. So I'm not going to press the button. I will keep it that way. Haven't fired a single shot, but everything good as new. So there you are, the two of the top Nikon cameras, the whole line of Leica film camera, and the whole line of the digital ones, the progression that they came along.
Well,
Yeah,
thank you.
welcome.
Thank you very much. Our subscribers will love the special edition.
Yeah.
All right, Mr. Wu, thank
Thank
you.
you. Welcome.
Bye-bye.
Bye bye.